awoke to find Dr. S standing over my bed. When I opened my eyes, he explained that he had been walking by and thought he'd check on me. Just for the record, I'm not quite as dumb as I look. There's checking on me, as in since I walked. And then there's checking on me in the way that Dr. Sharp is now doing. He makes an extended visit to my room at least twice a day, often arriving in a tight t-shirt and jeans instead of his doctor's uniform. No, they could do that. And adopting his signature crouching position against the wall, asks me to tell him about my life, about my madness, about things I'm studying in my books, things he claims to find fascinating. And in one brief explosion of intelligence, I know exactly what's going on. On my next supervised trip to the bathroom, I look at myself in the tiny cracked mirror in the hope of seeing some feature, something in my physical appearance that could be remotely alluring so that I could wipe it out. But I could find nothing. Asylum letter number 3. I cannot remember how I traveled from the carriage up the steps to the front doors, but there I stood, before the massive moonlit structure, a monumental fortress of brick and limestone, its Gothic splendor a stark contrast to the hundreds of bar-crossed windows punctuating the vast wings that reached out on either side like long arms open in a wide but disingenuous welcome. Gripping the leash attached to the ring on my heavy collar was a colossal brute, hunched and mute save for the occasional grunt. He had ridden with us in the carriage, filling the confined quarters with the stench of rotting meat. I wondered that my mistress could endure it. The Leviathan had hold of me with one filthy paw, while his other rang a large brass bell that hung from the alcove above the doors. The rude clanging produced no response from inside, and Madame Mornington stamped her foot on the frozen porch in frustration, cracking the thin ice. A plague on these blasted servants, she fumed. By the way, I had never read this before. Fumbling inside her grey-wool traveling cloak, Madame Mornington produced a key, attached by a long chain to her silver chatelaine pinned at the waist. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream from within the asylum pierced the night air. Does anybody want to do the scream? That was it. You all have the job. And my heart, as it just did, leapt against my chest. The giant at my side began to breathe heavily, sniffing the air like a hungry animal. Taking no notice, Madame Mornington fitted me into the lock on the heavy door, and scarcely had begun to turn it when the door swung open. Pulling them inwards were two smartly dressed butlers. They beckoned us inside with a bow and a sweep of their white-gloved hands. Madame Mornington snapped her fingers. The giant dropped my leash and ambled away towards an outbuilding further along the asylum grounds. My mistress advanced to the grand entrance hall whilst I remained in the doorway, the wind rushing in around me, blowing leaves and rain onto the polished floor. Looking directly ahead, my eyes first fell upon an enormous clock placed above the mantelpiece at the other end of the hall. Striking 4, the time seemed to stop. Before I knew what was happening, I was on the ceiling again, looking down at myself, standing on the black and white checkered marble. I was so small, a mouse in a mansion, cold, wet, and utterly alone. Could there be another soul in this